In Myanmar, in the past two and a half years, we are in very exciting and interesting period. We are in transition from military rule to more towards democratic systems, and we could see a number of changes on the political space, on media, on also for space for civil society. A number of things are moving in a positive way, but said that we also have a lot of challenges now and ahead. And also in forestry sector, like other sectors, there are also some changes as part of the broader reform in a way. Pyoe Pin is a civil society strengthening program, and we are working on a number of issues, including forestry, and we use issue as an entry point for improvement in governance and also to strengthen civil society. Because in Myanmar situation, particularly in the past and also even now, organizations and people are gathered around certain specific issues. So we use issue as entry point, and we support civil society organizations and also support like coalition building, not necessarily formal coalition, but both coalition of interest in a way, both formal and informal, and also networking and bringing looking for common ground and then bringing those things into policy level and also supporting in policy advocacy. So right now, I think one opportunity is now people in civil society could involve more in policy level discussion, because in the past there's no space at all for civil society to get involved in higher level, although NGOs and civil society involved in like more at very local level, like tree planting or awareness raising to communities, community forestry, that sort of thing, civil society involved, but not much in higher level discussion, or they could not bring much about the voices of the people at the ground or real issues at the ground to policymakers. And there's not much, there's no media freedom also, so media could not also talk about like deforestation or corruption or that sort of thing. Now it's now much more open up, so media could question those things, civil society could also discuss and question those things, so that are opportunities. And also on the government side, I think the government want recognition and legitimacy, so they want to be able to say, okay, we are doing good things, we are in line with good international practices or something like that, to demonstrate international community and also Myanmar citizens that they are really changing the country. So there's an opportunity also there, because there's also willingness to some extent from the government to change. In Myanmar civil society, there are a number of groups which are working on environment and forestry. As I mentioned earlier, many of them are involved in community forestry or some forestry reforestation projects or something like that, and also some environmental related work. So people are organizations are mobilized around environmental issues and forestry issues, but engaging it more at policy level is a new experience. So although some groups or organizations are good at delivering services or working at the ground, it's still a new area. So also from civil society perspective, then we really need to prepare to be able to effectively discuss and negotiate at policy level, and also to do our homework in a way, not just saying this is good or this is bad, but coming up with some policy options or some options on table. So I think this is a new thing for Myanmar civil society, and some organizations are now good at it already, but for many of them this is still a new thing. So I think civil society also need to prepare a lot to be able to effectively participate and influence in forestry governance and also in FLEGT process. I think there's now more space compared to the past, but is it sufficient is also another question. But I think it depends on all actors, not just the government, but also from civil society side, how we prepare and how we take the opportunity and how we seize the momentum in a way. And like in FLEGT, what I think is like this kind of process is also a good way, because in Myanmar, the whole transition is quite, individual led or personal led, like from the president and some key individuals and the lady and some ethnic leaders or like that. So it's very individualized transition in a way, and initiatives are quite personal led initiatives. So like FLEGT or this kind of international process could institutionalize the reform, like forestry sector reform, and formalize it, and civil society would also get more formal platform where they could engage in this multi-stakeholder group, government, private sector, and civil society. So this would be a good ground in a way. However, I think it's important that there's a need for enabling environment, not just giving on, okay, in FLEGT, this multi-stakeholder group, civil society is one block, yes, you can participate, that's very good. That's very encouraging and formalizing the situation. But there are other things which are restricting civil society and people, like some the law which are quite outdated and also restricting civil society freedom in mobilization or in expressing themselves, and also like media related things. So I think when we talk about like civil society meaningful participation, it need to be also looked at other legal environment and enabling environment, whether it's sufficient and guarantee legal environment for effective participation. We are doing some facilitation in a way that to have people or groups who normally don't work together or associate together to sit on the same table and discuss that sort of thing we are doing for common interest or coalition of interest thing, and also with linking different actors, for example, like with some international actors and national actors in a way, and also like in some areas when expertise is needed, also bringing in international expert or sometimes national expert and working with civil society organizations or like that, and also sometimes mobilizing civil society, helping them in policy advocacy, that sort of things we are doing. And also we engage with media, doing some media training or something like that, and linking media and civil society. That's also what we are doing. This is very exciting time, and the transition is still fragile and delicate. And you'd hear a number of things like, with ethnic group, non-state armed groups and government, now ceasefire talks, this, that. So it's fragile, even some agreements are quite fragile. So I think it's still very delicate, and it depends a lot on all actors, how we think to move forward. I think all would matter in a way. And also in green economy, we are quite underdeveloped in a way in economic terms. So, but I think like there could be also the benefit of latecomers, because in some situation, for example, when we talk about like organic farming, for example, like in the hill areas at the moment, people don't use fertilizer, simply because they don't know and they can't afford to use fertilizers and pesticides, for example. Then it's already organic in a way, because they don't do it deliberately, but it's naturally they do it. So that sort of thing we could take advantage and link with some niche market if possible, or something like that. I think that could be interesting. And also I think with the reform agenda right now, like one FLEGT coming in, I think it could have more leverage and cement some reforms and some changes. And one opportunity I think is in some cases, when I look at some countries, only like when we work at specific sector reform, and then if other related sector are not changing, then it may not be as effective as possible. In Myanmar case, we are in transition, everything is moving, so if we could do it well, then reforming in forestry sector, and also like, because in FLEGT it's also custom, it is also some other related things. So if things are moving right, because all are changing, then we could see most benefit out of the FLEGT. And all front transition is also challenging, it's complex, very complicated, and also capacity issue in government side and also in private sector, in civil society. But I think it's quite a big opportunity to make it really work. I think also from international partners like EU, I think it's because like multi-stakeholder group and participation of civil society at policy level is quite a new experience from civil society side and also from the government side. And since there need to be multi-stakeholder group, yes, everyone would agree that, but I think international partners also need to make sure that each parties, they really understand this consultative processes and also the DNA of FLEGT, where all stakeholders really need to participate and contribute for it.